Welcome aboard the Tabletop Express. We are back for part two of our series of games that we use to introduce modern gaming. Now, as we have done in this series thus far, this is very focused on thematic and mechanisms of the game. So the mechanics of the game are really at the core of this. We've seen a lot of lists. I know Anthony that are just here's the top 10 games to introduce. And as nice as it is, I don't think, and I think you agree, it doesn't always cover the basis of all the different mechanics that we see in games today.
Well, I think that list that you just mentioned was an easier list to put together maybe 5, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? But there's so many games now, and there's so many of them that have not just strictly one mechanic or mechanism in them. There's a lot of blends going on as well. So there's a lot to cover.
There is. Important to cover today too. I just want to take a brief moment before we jump into our picks to just note what today is, and it is International Women's Day. There are some fantastic women designers I know that we'll be talking about, and artists, etc. today. But it's an important day, and we want to take this moment to also say just so many thank yous to the women out there who create tremendous games, who bring brilliant art to life, and this industry of board games is such a diverse one. And I just think it's important that these days get honored, and we're recording this tonight on International Women's Day. So I want to make sure we do take a moment to acknowledge that. It is a very important note. So, if there's a designer that you really like, or an artist that you really like, take that moment to spread some love to them today too. I think it's important with all the issues that face the industry, pay parity, and so many other issues that women deal with that honestly I can't even imagine personally. So I want to make sure we bring it to the table, a moment of seriousness, because it is serious. But we're gonna have some fun tonight too. And I have to tell you that I'm really thrilled about our topic tonight and continuing this journey. And I will just stress that we are not going to be done with this after tonight. We'll be back in the future at a to be determined date, but I can tell you what I can say. I can say what my first pick is, if you want to hear that. If you want to get
sounds good, I'm all ears.
All right. Well, my first pick is a game that you introduced me to, and that's a hint for anyone who's watched this show. You've introduced me to this game, and I had not played it. I think I prejudged it. Whether or not that was, I'm not sure if I was going to like this or not. Right. And I loved it. And that is Wingspan. And
I've heard of this.
Yeah, you may have heard of it. Look, Wingspan for me, let's first talk about this game. This is a game in which you are collecting birds, you are laying eggs on them. And this goes across a series of rounds. And round by round, you get less and less actions. You are building a tableau of cards, but on those cards are abilities, and you're building an engine. And by the time you get to that fourth round, you really have an engine going. And Anthony, this is why I picked this one. I think this game is a great game, having played it multiple times with different groups of people now, to introduce the concept of engine building. You get the engine building going towards that end, right? I think in the third, fourth round, that engine's really building, but I think it's a good lesson in that. And again, I don't know that the game is going to be for everyone. I think the birds and the eggs and other stuff may attract a lot of people. But for me, the engine building aspect of this caught a lot of attention for me, just because as we talk about engine building, it does it really well, and it will set you up for deeper engine building games. This is fairly straightforward engine building, and again, as I said, I don't think you get into deep, truly huge, successful engine building until the later rounds, because in the beginning, you're really just trying to get there. So it's the beginning. It is not, an epic engine building game, but I think it's the good lesson. So that's why that's my pick.
For sure. It definitely maps out how the whole engine building thing works. And I mean, if the person that you're introducing this game to is a fan of nature or birds, even a little bit, then when you're explaining these engine building mechanics and how this builds off of that, when you have a theme to kind of converse around like the bird thing, it just sort of lends itself to teaching it a little bit easier, right? Because you can relate, this bird has this power. Well, it makes sense because they live in, the wetlands or whatever. So it's a fun teach. I love to teach this game. It is, it's currently my favorite game. That might change, but I have both expansions and I like them both. So this one's going to keep getting to the table for me.
So that is my choice for the engine building mechanism. And I just think, again, that mechanic is in this game, but it's not heavy. So it's a good way to start that.
For sure. Well, speaking of games that are not too heavy, I really wanted to get a game to the discussion that was in the cooperative category. I think teaching games to new gamers it can be difficult and daunting, and you have to sort of, entry angle, and a co-op provides a really good entry angle for that because you eliminate the sort of worry amongst the players of them not doing well or making a mistake or whatnot, because you're all playing collectively as a team. So you're discussing your options beforehand and what you think is the best move. And there's a lot of collaboration. And this one that I'm thinking about specifically is a family-friendly game, great for kids and adults, and that is Ghost Fightin' Treasure Hunters. A really cool-looking co-op based on a haunted house, which I think is eating the children, maybe, or it has arms. I don't know. It's like it's a weird thing, but you're going in there as these little sort of kid Ghostbuster type people, and you're really trying to, as a team, get all of these gems or these treasures out of the house before it's completely overrun with these ghosts. And this is at the heart of it. It's a cooperative game, but it's a roll and move game, which is like, if you're, even in this hobby a little bit, the whole roll and move thing is sort of like a derogatory term almost for board games, right? Because it harkens back to Monopoly and things that don't have a lot of sort of depth to them. But this one is just, it fits the theme, right? You're tiptoeing through the house. The board, if you've ever played Clue in your life ever, this board is going to be very familiar to you. It is laid out really similar to a Clue board, where you have some hallways and some rooms and you can pass through other rooms. And at the heart of it, great co-op. Like I said, family friendly. It has a couple of different difficulty levels. So you can play, the easier version first and then kind of move up as the game goes on. Great components, great little ghosts. You put them on your finger because that's just what you do in that game. And even your characters, your little kid backpack Ghostbuster people, have a little like slit in their backpack. So when you do pick up one of those gem tokens or treasures, you slide it into the back. And so now you're carrying it around. It's really fun. This one gets played around Halloween time and multiple times for sure, because it's that much fun.
This one I know that I did for the board game club that I run just around that Halloween time. It was such a simple game to teach, but it's really enjoyable, and the expansion to this it makes it really hard, actually. So again, I think a lot of games we've talked about in this series thus far have been ones that you can upgrade to make more difficult,
right?
And this definitely falls into that category. So I think it's a great choice. And the theme, you're right, it's fun. I think you can get into this idea of there's plenty of games where you're going into a house and that sort of thing, but this is a nice introduction. I think this is a good introduction. We did have a comment, by the way, talking about co-op that just mentioned Pandemic. And I do want to throw Pandemic out there. Great game. And when it comes down to it, they're making reference also, as you can see, to the legacy version, which I wouldn't start people with necessarily, but I don't know that you couldn't. So I think it's actually worth mentioning. And there's now 3 seasons of Pandemic. So that is a great co-op game to play. Season 0, I've heard good things about. So
yeah, and besides even the 3 legacy games, there's, I don't know, 7, maybe 8 different iterations of Pandemic before the legacy ones were even a thing.
That's true.
So there's certainly a wide range of games in that family for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to jump right into mine. And my topic that I'm going to talk about is set collection. And again, we are talking about games that introduce. This one is light. It's light and it's simple, but it teaches the general idea of set collection. The one I'm thinking about and the one that I picked is actually a little chaotic in the sense that you're constantly seeing change in the different ways you might be able to score points. And it is a little bit of a point salad, quite literally. It is point salad. And I love this game because, one, you can play it quick. It's built to scale. So you're going to have more cards in the game with more people. So it is built to scale. A 2-player game can be just as much fun as a 3-player game or a 4-player game. The thing about this game is that on both sides of the card, there's something. For example, if there's a cabbage or an onion or a lettuce on the other side, because there's a symbol to show that. But the ways to score points are on the other side of the card. And you set up the cards, as you kind of see here, 3 piles, and then below, 2 cards are placed underneath. You can either take 2 cards, or you can take the top card from one of the piles. Now, you can take the top card from the pile, by the way, and then flip it over for that particular piece of your salad. Because the scoring is going to be varied every single time, I just think this is a great way to introduce the set collection without a ton of pressure. It's really simple. It's very easy to say set collection and say Sushi Go. And I think Sushi Go is a great choice for this category. But for me, this just streamlines that process. It's simple. It's fun. It's quick. And I finally started playing this game because I got it. I put it on a wish list. I got it for Christmas. And we started playing it. And it definitely falls in for me into almost its own category, Mouse, which is dinner game, aka a game we could play in 30 minutes or less at dinner. Right. But, I don't know, point salad to me does this really well. And I really did. I just got to say, I toyed with putting Sushi Go in there, but Sushi Go Party in particular, actually. But to me, this one's a little bit easier to get to the table with a lot of people, cleans up real quick, comes out real quick. You're not going to have a lot of downtime, which can be huge with new gamers, obviously, or people who you're upgrading to modern gaming.
Yeah, I would have given you a good amount of garbage if you put Sushi Go on this list because you did it on the last video.
Yes, it's true. I couldn't
There's too many games to double back-to-back videos.
I know. I would not do that. But again, that's also when I thought about this list early on, I kind of knew that fell into a different category for me. So,
yeah, I played this game once and I really enjoyed it. Super fast-paced and chaotic, just chaotic enough, like you said, where you don't have to be zoned in like 100%. I'm going to concentrate on all the strategy in this game. It's just fast and fun. And yeah, if you play it at the dinner table, the good thing about that is if you get any food on it, if it's the right kind of food, you won't even know the difference, right? You'll be like, oh, I dropped onion on the onion card. Oh, well.
The dinner games, I will say this, the dinner games in my house, you could tell they're dinner games. But it's not the same as the medium to heavyweight games, certainly, but we're not talking about that type of game here. So.
No, and speaking of, this next one is definitely not a heavy game. This is another very chaotic game, and this is the pick I have for the dexterity category, which can mean a few different things. This game in particular is the flicking part of the dexterity genre, and this game is called Ice Cool. There's also Ice Cool 2, which is, I think, compatible. You can just make the board bigger. What's cool about this game is, as you can see, the way that it's laid out, all of those pieces you see there fit inside of each other, and one of them is the bottom of the box. So the box is only this tall because they all go inside of each other. Basically, in this game, you build this school made of ice, and you're all penguin students trying to catch fish. And each round, one person is going to be the catcher who's trying to catch the other penguins before they get the fish. And these little penguin pieces are like weighted on the bottom, right? So they always stay up straight, weebles kind of thing. But you can just flick the heck out of these things and they bounce all over the place. You try to get them through the doorway. You can go backwards. You can spin them around. It's crazy, crazy fun. It's an equalizing game because, believe it or not, sometimes kids are better at this than adults just by pure luck, really, just randomly. But you can also really hone your flicking skills on this. And there's some people who are very good at these penguin trick shots in this game of, sort of putting some English on it and going around other penguins and through a door and whatnot. Yep. A lot of fun, Ice Cool, and a great one to get to the family table. And it looks great when it is out on the table. If you're playing this game in a public place, people are going to come over and ask you what it is.
So I will say this: it definitely a fun game. I always get nervous with anything where we're like, even I think about some of the one. I think it's a nice upgrade from some of the games where you are flicking pieces that are maybe the straight off the shelf. This is a straight off the shelf a target game, but it's like a step up, right?
Right.
And I always get anxious I'm going to lose the pieces, but in this one, I would say it is a ton of fun to watch people play, and it's definitely one worth owning and bringing into a family event. And I mean, it could be a good way to get them in and say, hey, what else can I do that's like this?
And you know what's also cool? Sorry, what I forgot to mention is that the person who's the catcher is going to rotate every round. So even if you get caught, you're not out of the game. You're done with that round. But next round you're going to be back in it, or the round after that you're going to be the person actually trying to catch other people. So everyone gets a fair shot at being the runner or the catcher.
Very important. Very important. I think that the not being cut from the game with the game that you're introducing is, to me, critical. For me, the game that I want to introduce next is in a category that some might say, well, once you put this with roll and write, same category. And I don't, because I think there's enough in the flip and write that you can kind of argue there's enough variety coming to there. And I do want to talk about flip and write. This is a game I actually bought, I believe, at PAX Unplugged, if I'm not mistaken. And that is a game called Silver and Gold. This game, out of the box, I can say, one, you look at it and you say, wow, there's a lot going on here. What do we do in this game? And there is some abstract to it in the sense that there's some symbols, there's X's, there's gold, and there's palm trees. You're scoring in a few ways here. You are trying to complete these cards, which are coming with a dry erase marker that you can write right on them. They come pre-made for that. So that's one really neat, right out of the box. But there's things on them like an X, which is going to allow you to then fill in another box on any of your other cards. You only have 2 at a time, I should know. The money allows you to check off a box on another card that you have. And if you fill those, you start to collect more bonus points. And the palm trees, based on the amount of palm trees on the display, is going to get you a collective amount of points based on the total number of palm trees on the display. So the game itself offers a variety of ways to score, with the main mechanism being the points, the cards themselves. But these cards also have the ability to score some extra points, because if it might say, okay, for every gray you have, you're going to get a point. Those don't come out all the time. But it's enough there without being overcomplicated that I can teach this to anyone, and after play, they're like, I got this. And you're teaching them a few important things in this game. Yes, it's a flip and write. You're teaching them a flip and write, but the mechanism here, that mechanic, I should say, the mechanic of the idea that, okay, we can get bonus points at the end game points based on what I'm collecting. Yes, there's a set collection component here, but in the end, I put this under flip and write because I really do think it's its own category, and this is teaching a few of those things. This is a hybrid, but flip and write as a category, the idea of flipping over cards with shapes to fill them in on something else, I just thought was so neat. And it's cool too. I should note, there up in the upper right, you can see some of those cards with the shapes. If you can't fill in that shape, you can fill in one spot on your cards. And you have 2 cards at any given time. So it is a great game. I think, this was brought over by a few companies. Pandasaurus Games is the version that I own. I've got the one with their old logo, but great game. Check it out. This is one of those ones that I think is like that next level up that you can still get in a Target or someplace like that. It's hanging on the shelf, and you should definitely grab this and play this and try it with your family, your friends. I think this is going to hit on a lot of different levels. For gamers, this is probably going to be more of a filler. And for gamers who are trying to introduce their family, this is going to be a great game to do that. So it's worth owning for multiple reasons, in my perspective.
I agree completely. I also played this for the first time at PAX Unplugged and bought it instantly.
Yes. That was my story.
It was so fun, which is like, we just have to get this game. And I was also able to teach it to my parents, which is a feat in itself. So the fact that I can teach it to them means that I can teach it to a lot of people who have not played any of these games before. And like you said, that just makes it, a very versatile tool to have in your gaming, arsenal, basically.
Yeah, by the way, I want to read a comment when you were talking about dexterity. I don't Ryan is not here. If he is here, he'd appreciate this, but this comment, I know Ryan, if he is listening and watching, is going to appreciate if he watches it later. That is another great one when it comes to a flicking or dexterity, I guess you would say. So good one. I have not played it, and Ryan has claimed I'm going to learn it this year. So I'm looking forward to that.
There you go. All right. So sometimes when you're playing a game, you are really competitive. And there's a whole genre of these games that are often referred to as take that games, which is like, I play a card and it directly affects you. And a lot of people don't like that. And I get why they don't. So in the game that I'm choosing here, I think it sort of breaks that perception because it's only a 2-player game. Yeah. So that, you're going to get take that played on you, but it's only going to be played on you, and you're only going to be playing on one other person. So you don't feel like you're getting picked on by 2 or 3 other people. This game, 2-player only, is called Raptor. This game came out in 2015, I believe. So it's showing its age already, which is a weird thing to say when it's only 6 years old. But I feel like this game will be even more pushed under the rug nowadays with the new Unmatched series of games that are also, 1 versus 1 and all different genres. They have, all different intellectual properties, characters involved in that. And one of them happens to be, I believe, a Jurassic Park thing. So it's almost like this game with a newer version. But Raptor, co-designed by 2 awesome designers who are both named Bruno. How could you go wrong? Bruno Cathala and Bruno Fedudi. And in this game, you have 1 deck of cards. You're either playing as the Raptors or the scientists. The scientists are trying to capture 3 baby raptors to win the game. And the mom, I believe, is trying to eat some scientists. I forget the win condition for the Raptor side. But basically, you have a really small deck of cards that I think is only 9 or 10 cards in total. And on a turn, you'll both choose one to play without showing it right away. And then when you've selected, you flip it over. They all have values, I believe, from 1 to 9 on them. And the way the mechanism works in this game is whoever played the lower number value card gets to do the thing that's on that card, whatever action that happens to be. Mm-hmm. The other player who played a higher value card, it's not like they don't get to do anything. They take the difference of the 2 numbers and use that many action points to do a plethora of other things with their characters. So either way you play a card high or low, you're going to be able to do something. Is it going to be the ideal thing that you want to do every turn? Probably not. And that's what makes this a pretty good strategy game that really looks great on the table with your little raptor dinosaur figures, and the little scientist guys are and the 3D little rocks and stuff like that. It's got 2 sides to the board, so you can kind of vary up the way the game goes a little bit. Excuse me. But great game, Raptor. Again, I don't know how much love it's going to get anymore, but if you see this game, you should get it because it's great.
I've heard amazing things about this game. I think this fell under the radar when I looked at Raptor, only because there was just so many other great 2-player games. But I think this is why we're talking about these in this way. The perspective of the take that piece, like Onitama, I don't feel take that at all. This has a much clearer take that component. So I think that adds to it. If I do want to play a take that or teach that, or even come to that understanding without feeling like the hurt. I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say that, because I'm gonna bring up a comment here that somebody mentions Munchkin. Munchkin is definitely the quintessential take that game. Yes. I mean, to the point where sometimes you're like, what? The card really says that? You do that thing? And I like Munchkin a lot. It's definitely not gotten to the table as often for me in the past few years. But it's an interesting dynamic in Munchkin because the first person to 10 points is the winner. And so once someone gets anywhere near that 10-point mark, the game suddenly becomes, no, we cannot let this person win. And everyone agrees. It's like a battle for second place because you just want to be the one who sneaks in there right after you dethrone that person that's currently in first. It can be a very mean one, but very fun and funny as well. So I do like Munchkin.
Munchkin is a nice mention too, because I think the thing about Munchkin is that Munchkin has so many IPs now. I, for example, own the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one that has the graphic novel almost designed to
I
it.
actually didn't even know that that was one of them, and there's so many.
Yes, and there's a Wizard of Oz one that I
Yeah.
literally want to own just for the special edition box, and that's it. But I think that for that reason could be great for a lot of people. So I think that's a really good addition to the list. You did talk about my next topic though, so I'm kind of excited about this. And you talked about co-op. I'm going to talk about co-op, but I'm not going to say pandemic either. I like pandemic, but when I'm teaching, I really like this particular choice. And the reason I like this choice is it has this exciting theme to me of, okay, we're stranded. We need to go find all the parts to our flying device, not plane, flying device. So let's make sure I'm clear with that. And when I got this game, by the way, it is the second in its series, and I did not know about the first one. So I admit I was at the time I bought it because I think this one came out in 2013. I didn't know when I got it about the one that was from 2010. So this one in particular, Forbidden Desert. First and foremost, you can see some of the pieces here, some really excellent art in this game. You've got these sand tiles that are going to come out and you're going to have to uncover things. What's great about this is you'd have all individual roles in this and different abilities. So you've got capabilities. For example, I'm reading this one here of a navigator. Make another player, move another player up to 3 unblocked tiles. These kind of cards, pandemic-like, right?
Same designer.
And that's what I was about to say.
Oh, sorry.
Same designer. We get the point across. The point in this game is so fun to teach. You can get them in this team. Okay, we're stranded in the desert. We got to get out. Here's what we have to do. But every turn, this storm whips up, moves it around. You've got these sand tiles going over. It's fun. And at that moment, when you're like, okay, we had a great plan. Oh, the sand tiles covered it up. And now we got to do this. Okay, who's got this? Okay, you've got ability to do this. And I don't feel like one of the things I was seeing a great discussion today was this idea of people taking over in co-ops. I don't think that happens here. I think one, that depends who you're playing with, but you can easily teach people with this one to play a co-op in a good way. I'm going to note, by the way, one of the things I like about this game, because I put it out in front of me, is there's this thing, which is like you've got the sand meter going up, boop, 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 and so you're watching this and it's bad. So I don't know. The visual appeal of this game, it looks great. It doesn't take up a ton of space, easy to teach, and it fits in a really decent sized box. And if you need to take it on a relatively short trip, you can do it. So for me, this one, it's just on top of my co-op game. I wanted to say also Magic Maze is a ton of fun, but it's just too complicated to teach people. Unfortunately, it's a more of a next step that I like to use in teaching communication because you can't talk to each other. So it just makes it a little bit too hard. But I love Magic Maze. So this is just an excuse to say the word Magic Maze. And I think it's an underrated game. So I'm going to say it.
Yeah. I've played Forbidden Desert. I own Forbidden Island. Actually, for some reason, I own 2 copies of Forbidden Island. I believe that because one of them used to be in the board game club that I used to run at the school. And what I was going to say basically on that point is that, again, you as an adult can play this game with all adults. You can play this game with some adults and some children. You could be the only adult playing with a bunch of children. And that's how I did it in the board game club. And it doesn't matter. It's not like we're playing Scrabble and I'm going to, destroy these 7-year-olds because I know more words than they do. We're all working together, right? So we're going to talk about things, and you're, as the facilitator, if you're taking that role in the group, you got to, like you said, it depends who you're playing with. You're not going to be that alpha gamer who tells people what to do. You can certainly make suggestions, right? But to your point, I mean, it really fosters the communication, and it's a great one, great series. I actually there's a third one. I never played that one, Forbidden Sky. That was the newest one. I don't think was met with as much acclaim as the first 2 overall.
It's just that I wasn't excited about it myself. I'll be honest. It just doesn't have the same appeal. But like I said, I've never played the first one that you have. So I mean, right there. But again, great game. I highly recommend it. Go check it out. It's pretty inexpensive too. That's the other part about a lot of the games we're mentioning are not going to cost you a ton of money. So you can get them, put them to the table, teach someone, and then you never know what next level game you can get them to. But I know we have a next game. What's your next choice?
All right, so my next game is a game to introduce people to gaming who maybe still want to, you know, sit around a table and kind of laugh and have a good time, maybe drink and imbibe a little bit, and it's almost okay to get off track, right? So there's not a lot of strategy in this game. This is called the Red Dragon Inn. I own the Red Dragon Inn 1 and 2. There are so many versions and expansions to this game. There are more than I care to own. I with these two, I have enough. I think I have 10 different characters to play with the two games. Basically, the premise here is pretty cool. It's, if you've ever played any kind of campaign game like Dungeons and Dragons, it's the after credit scene, right? Okay, so in this game, you're done with the fighting and the searching and the monsters and all that stuff. The quest is over. You're at the Red Dragon Inn. You kick your boots up, you put your weapons down, you're drinking, you're having a good time, you're gambling a little bit. That's the whole premise of this game. And in fact, you can actually make this into a drinking game if you are an adult over 21 and you do want to imbibe while you play. This is a great reason to do that because these cards say, here, drink this. It's 3 drink tokens. This is 4. Oh, this one's water. It makes you, get sober 1. And you can see in the picture that there's 2 tracks. There's a fortitude counter and an alcohol counter, and they both start at opposite ends of the spectrum. And never the two shall meet, because if they cross on any of those numbers, you essentially pass out and you are out of the game. So this is a player elimination game. I will say that. But again, it's just kind of silly fun because you're going to be buying drinks for people and gambling. You can bet with money from the bar, and the drinks are all cool. They're, like Dragon's Breath and Elven Wine and all this stuff. It's just, I don't know. It's a pretty cool game for, like I said, people who want to sit around and play a game, but it's okay if you kind of, get off topic and start like chatting for no reason and then get back on track. It's not like, oh my God, whose turn is it? We messed up. This piece fell. It's not that kind of game.
Right.
And for that reason, I think it does appeal to a wide group of people. So highly recommend introducing this to anybody who likes to play, card games in general, or drinking games, or drinking card games.
With this one, I have to ask, have you ever done, because you can take this role, one thing I've done with a game that's I don't necessarily want to introduce people to this game because the end game component of Betrayal at the House on the Hill is fiddly, just to be polite. But I always go into this kind of almost like, okay, let's tell the story behind our character. Do you have that opportunity in a game like this? Does it give you the background, or does it give you the opportunity to kind of make that up? Like,
yeah, I mean, it doesn't give you. No, I guess it doesn't give you much of a background. I mean, all the characters are some kind of D&D trope, like it's blank the barbarian or someone the half ogre, and
so hypothetically that means you could have some fun in making up
a
story for it.
Yeah, and like I said, if you're with the right crowd and you're going to improv with this, I think it's just going to be a lot of fun, and you might not even finish the game. And usually that kind of thing, like, that would bother me as a gamer, but in this game it's like not a big deal because, like, who cares?
No, I like that. I would say, yeah, to me, that's part of the fun I'm looking for, is something like that, we can maybe have some fun with this. We can get creative, and that just gets people excited to want to play a game. I will say a game that I bring up in our final category of this second video for me is going to be, again, because we have some fun mixing this up, and we'll be back with the third one at a date to be determined. But for me, I want to talk about a game where you get to do bluffing. What is a great game to introduce people to this idea of bluffing and saying, hey, I'm trying to hide something, but I don't want him to know that, or I don't want her to know that, and I need to get this through. And for me, and people have a love-hate relationship with this game in the gaming community, I think it's fair to say. But when it comes to getting people into it and getting them the idea of bluffing and understanding it, I think there are very few games that do it quite as well as Sheriff of Nottingham. Sheriff of Nottingham, you are trying to get your goods over into the market. The turn order you can see there is market, load, merchant bag, your declaration, if there's an inspection, and end of round. Turn marker goes, next person goes and takes their turn as sheriff. For me, this game, because someone's got to be sheriff and make that determination if they're going to check a bag. Someone else, all the other people at the table decide what am I going to try and sneak through. Here's the thing with this game. If you have not played it, you are going to declare. And when I say declare, I have 2 apples, Anthony. And you've got to decide, does he have 2 apples? Now you can only pick one item, by the way. So you can't say I have 2 apples and something else.
Right.
You have to stick with the thing. So I have 2 apples, I have 3 apples. If you don't have apples, you might not have 3 apples in that bag. That's the bottom line. If you check it and that person does not have it, they now owe you money. If you check that bag, however, and they do have what they said, you owe them money. So there's a lot of different ways to play this game. The bluffing in it is fun. The characters are, obviously neat to look at, but they don't impact anything. So you're not dealing with a special abilities piece. The other reason I like this, and I think it's important, and I'm going to just share this on the screen. I believe the new version has a lot of this stuff built in from the Merry Men expansion, because the new version I have not got a chance to play because I own the regular version and this. But this added a 6-player, the Black Market, Laws, Special Orders, and Merry Men. So now you want to up the game, do a little bit more. You've got the option with these module inserts. So for me, great way to introduce it. And I think bluffing can be a ton of fun. Now, bluffing's not for everyone. So this is also a great way to find out if bluffing is something these people, your friends are going to like. But when it comes down to it, I enjoy this game. It's not a game I play all the time, but I've certainly done it to introduce the general idea. It looks like I got to note that it looks like Lauren feels similar to I've seen some people. I'm not good at bluffing with this game. I want to like it, and I've seen that. But the concept to me is what this is about, and I think it does it well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's another very open-ended game. You can almost make any kind of deal you want, to the point where you can even bribe, the sheriff to either not open your case, or if he or she is on the fence, you'd be like, look, I'll give you $5 if you open his case right there. And then the other person's like, whoa, hold on. It's like, too late, opened it.
This
right?
could turn into
a total bluff. It's nuts.
It can turn into take that in that same way, which I didn't even really think about it, because you can definitely do that. I don't know. I enjoy this game a lot. And to me, I'm glad it's in my collection. Again, I'll play it a few times a year, and it's worth it for that alone.
Yep. Agreed. All right. So I've got, is this our last pick? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we've gone through 9. So this is our last one of this video. So,
all right. So you mentioned drafting earlier. Drafting is definitely one of my favorite mechanics in games. Very often a drafting game involves drafting cards. This game, however, involves drafting dinosaurs. In fact, it's right there in the name, cleverly titled Draftosaurus. Right, so you can't get better than that. I love this little game. It comes with really cool little wooden dinosaur meeples. It comes with 2 sides to a board. You can play a summer side or a winter side. And essentially, you're just populating your player board, which is a dinosaur park, with these different types of dinosaurs. Now, there's these different enclosures on the board that have different requirements. For example, one of them requires you to only put, say, one type of dinosaur in that one, but you could put as many as you can fit. Another one might be only 2 types of dinosaurs can fit here, but they have to alternate in this pattern. So there's all these different ways to sort of place them. And if you get stuck to a point where you can't place a dinosaur in one of those enclosures, you can always put them in the middle in the water section, and you'll still get a point for them later. But it's a drafting game where you're sticking your hand into this bag and you pull out a bunch of these dinos. You secretly pick one that you want to play, and you pass the rest to the person next to you, and then you are receiving a new handful of little dinosaurs. And it's just tons of fun, easy to teach. I've played this with people my age and kids. Everybody loves it, and very excited also for a couple of expansions that are coming out for this game this year. One, I believe, is focusing on aerial, flying dinosaur type animals, and then one is focusing on the, I believe, water, I guess, oceanic type of animals. So looking forward to that. I hope they add more boards and more dinosaurs, because I'm all about this game, and anything that comes out for it, I'm probably going to get.
Yeah, so I want to make a note with this one. 2 things. One, That's my only complaint with the game is that there's only 2 boards. Like I really wish there was more now, just because I've done them so much. I'm not saying it gets old, because I think I gave for the purpose of this video, it is a great way to introduce that drafting. It's so much fun to pull those dinosaurs out of a bag. It's just enjoyable. Now the other neat thing about this game to me, and I think it's worth mentioning, is Board Game Arena has this right now in, I believe, beta, if I'm not mistaken. So it is available to play. Honestly, if anyone wants to play with me, let me know. Reach out in the comments. I'm just Tabletop Express on Board Game Arena. I'm happy to play this with anyone, and I can start a game for us. But it's just a ton of fun. And it plays on Board Game Arena in like 10 minutes if you just do it live.
I was going to say,
so
this is
quick.
a fast game anyway, and without the actual passing of the pieces, it's probably super fast.
It's so quick.
Even when we sit down and play this game, 9 times out of 10, we play both sides of the board because it's that fast. We just play a summer, and then
I often do a 2 out of 3. And then I let the winner pick like the side or something. But
gotcha.
It's a great game. A really great game. I own it because you'll find throughout the I'm doing videos that we own games because of each other, and this is one of those cases that I own Draftosaurus because of you. And yeah, any other games or any other topics, if you're in this chat, please, again, feel free to note in the comments the topics you would like to see us mention in terms of the next one in this series. We've talked about a few. I will promise, I'm going to make a promise right now. In part 3 of this, I'm going to share my recommendation for the game that I actually would use to do worker placement, which is really tough for me because it's like, I joke it's 50% of my collection, but it's more like 30. But I've been thinking about this. And my selection may be a little bit different than what people expect. That's all I can say. There's obvious choices, but I think I've noted, Anthony, that I really think the theme plays an interesting part when trying to introduce someone, because I got to be interested. So that's all I will say. If you have topics, though, you want us to see talk about, or in particular mechanics you think we should mention in the next video, let us know. Please go check out the first video too. We talk about a bunch of mechanics in that video as well, and we'll let you know when part 3 is coming. We'll be streaming that to, of course, both of our channels, so you're going to be able to see that on my channel as well as Anthony's channel. You can subscribe today to both our channels, Tabletop Express and Board Game Dads. So I'm going to encourage you to take a moment to do that if you get a chance and you like the content that you're seeing and you want to see more. I will take this time, Anthony, just to share a little bit of some stuff upcoming for me, and then I want to make sure you have a chance. But I'm really excited. I've got a Creators Corner coming up this week, and it's actually going to be behind one of the Kickstarters that's upcoming. Gift of Tulips is on Kickstarter. It was designed, published, created, art, etc. By 9 women. It's a team of 9 women, and they've done an amazing job with this game. The Kickstarter's already funded, but I can recommend you go check it out. But I'm going to be talking to Carla from Gift of Tulips, and Weird Giraffes is, I believe, the publisher there. So I'm going to be chatting with her on Wednesday, and that's Wednesday night. So go check that out. What do you got going on?
That sounds great. I'm going to check that out too. I had no idea what that. I saw the name of that game very briefly in passing, and just that. But now that you mentioned all that stuff, I'm going to have to check that one out for sure. Yep. So on my channel this week, usually I post a video every Wednesday. This week is going to be the exception with 2 videos. One of them involves this gentleman, Chris Barrows, right here, as well as my friend Eric, where we talk about how our gaming sort of has evolved over the past year. Okay. It's coming up almost exactly on a year of the pandemic, a year of lockdown, a year of quarantining. And so that's our quarantine-iversary episode. Be sure to check that out. And then also National Panda Day is coming up this week. So you'll see Eric and I with another board game holiday spotlight talking about some games that involved the lovable panda bear. So check that out. I
have an idea for one game for that. One game, I won't say it, but there's one game. I know. We also have a suggestion. They want us. We got a suggestion for war games. Mention war games. I got one in. I got some thoughts in mind. I gotta think about what one I would use to teach war games. That's actually the challenging part to me, because war games can be war games can be tricky. But I love the topic. I'm going to go into that, and I will take that. I'll take that challenge up and try to find a good war game intro. But I think I'll see if Anthony will take that up with me too. But I have to think about that one. That's tough.
It's a tough definition as well. I think it's,
yeah.
What defines a war game, because there's a lot of subgenres of that as well. Does it have to be, a historical thing? Is it just a fighting kind of thing?
Right.
So if you're loose on the definition, sure, I can come up with a couple.
yeah. I think we can work with that. If you've got any other suggestions, drop them in the comments on the video after the fact on Anthony and I's channels. Again, like and subscribe if you're enjoying what you're seeing. We're going to take this time to say thank you, of course, for joining us. We will be back for a future video. I'll announce that over on my Twitter and Facebook, and Anthony will, of course, share that out from his. And we look forward to seeing all of you soon. In the meantime, go enjoy, play some games, and of course, thank you for coming aboard the Tabletop Express. We'll talk to you soon.